So I finally hit max level in Lost Ark. It took me about a week and a half. It probably wouldn't have taken so long if Amazon had invested in additional servers. 8,000 player queues was the longest I saw, and sometimes the servers were so full the game wouldn't even let me in the queue, and instead just shut down. Apparently, the US had more servers. Great. Oh, the struggles of being a European. But I've done some endgame stuff and now I can review the Korean Diablo MMO. Be warned, if you play this game, your keyboard will sound like this. That's not me using abilities in combat, that's me skipping the dialogue. Just to be clear with this review, I will not cover every single detail of this game, because if I did, I would figuratively die. So this is like a fantasy setting that has guns and cannons and magic and some semi-high-tech shit. And you are a person that has been chosen by a floating woman to find the Ark, I think. Yeah, I skipped pretty much all the dialogue in this game, but I know some stuff, but some of it may be wrong. But you probably shouldn't care. The gist of it is, there was a world war because the Sacrian Order wanted power. The Guardians that work for the gods punished the Order, but not before demons invade Arcasia. Yeah, this world is called Arcasia, by the way. I hit max level and I had no idea. The Ark is used to imprison a demon called Kasros beneath a volcano, which is a bad idea because volcanoes erupt, but whatever, this is fantasy. Real world rules don't apply. No, wait, apparently they do apply, because the website says, and I quote, "The volcano imprisoning the most dangerous enemy this world has ever known, Kasros, is about to erupt. Begin your adventure in a world on the brink of war." Why did you not just imprison him under a non-volcanic mountain? Anyway, you need to find the Ark to make sure Kasros doesn't ruin the world or something. Probably. Before we get into the gameplay, we have to select a class. Instead of going over all the classes, I will only cover the ones I considered playing. The Berserker, a perfect class for 30-year-old basement or attic dwellers battling male pattern baldness, that just wanna be a huge, perfectly cut muscular dude with a huge sword. And just wanna go fight men and penetrate those men with their gigantic, throbbing sword. Fortunately, I am not a victim of male pattern baldness, so I had to pick a different class. The Deadeye, the class you choose when you wanna drop your hot, steamy load all over groups of men and even women. Practice your Second Amendment right like a real American and blow your way through Arcasia. Guns are always cool, but I still have two options. Do you like Naruto? Do you like anime? Do other people just not get you? Did you dye your hair black? Do you regularly wear a trench coat? Then the Shadow Hunter is perfect for you. Dash behind other people and say nothing personnel kit as you slash your way through Arcasia. Unfortunately, I would have to be a woman to play the Shadow Hunter. Yes, there is gender-locked classes in this game and I hate it and it's stupid and I don't know why the Asians keep doing this. Since I don't want to be oppressed under the patriarchy, I have one option left. I ended up choosing the Striker because if there is one thing I love more than shooting men with my hot load, it's fisting them. Plus, I was fresh off of Sifu when I started playing this game, so I wanted to keep the Kung Fu train rolling. Plus, the Striker has a spin-to-win tornado. Okay, now we can actually get into the game and start leveling and questing. When you start, you have to get through a lot of dialogue, but then finally the game lets you have fun. It gives you enemies to fight. And you start right away with like 6 or 8 abilities, and in the beginning the abilities are super strong and makes you feel like this unstoppable god. It's so explosive and flashy. So I quickly realized the basic attack has little to no purpose and is just there to tickle enemies, and the gameplay is more centered around the rotation of the abilities. Kinda like an MMO. Wow. Early in the game, you will go pretty much unchallenged. You will steamroll through the game. But later, it starts taking longer to kill enemies, and it's not particularly difficult until you start dealing with some bosses that have strong telegraphed attacks you can dodge. But I've never died, yet. But I have gotten close. I got a pretty limitless supply of potions by default, so you probably shouldn't worry about the game being difficult. Until the end game. Hover mouse over enemies, press abilities, enemies die. You also have the dodge, and some of your abilities will move you around. You have to hold some abilities, and some of them you can press multiple times. You have a foundational knowledge of the combat now, so we can move on to the questing before we get any deeper. But in terms of difficulty, things will get harder and harder as you get closer to 50. And the first time I died was in an abyss dungeon, and that's the only place I have died, except for PvP. I'm pretty sure this is the best questing experience I've had in an MMO, ever, because you just blow through it super fast and there is an incredibly small amount of monotonous shit. In other MMOs, if you get a quest that asks you to get 12 boar pelts, you think, oh, great, I'm gonna spend the next 30 minutes killing boars, but in this game, it's 30 seconds. 99.9% of side quests in this game are right next to the main quest. For example, it will be something like the main quest wants you to touch a button somewhere, and then the side quest will ask you to kill the bears right next to the button. It's such a small thing, but makes such a huge difference in enjoying the game. The game never keeps you in one area so long that you will get bored of it. Except for Tortoik, but we'll get to that later. I feel like a speedrunner when I play the main storyline. I just blow through everything so fast compared to other MMOs and Diablo-likes, I guess. And you get these huge cinematic moments and you're just like, oh, holy shit, this is cool. But then all the dialogue is in a window like this. Presentation is important in a story, and this dialogue box might as well be screaming, press the skip button, which I did. I like the combat, it's really fun, and I don't want to waste my time listening to a boring dialogue about something that has failed to capture my interest. People talk about the story being bad. Well, I didn't notice because I skipped all the dialogue, because the game completely failed to get me interested in the story at all. I'm sorry, stressed Korean writer, but your year or so of writing will go unappreciated because I want a higher number faster. The visuals are good. I never had a moment of thinking something looks like shit, except for the elves. Just let me step on them. There's a foresty area, there's a desert area, there's a tech area, there's a China area, and much more. And then there's Tortoik. This place. At one point you drink a potion that makes you small, and you can't use your horse, and it's just silly nonsense. Why am I a ladybug right now? Stop! This isn't fun. At least I got a mount out of it. Just one elf. Let me step on one elf, please. My biggest complaint is there is way too much dialogue, and I wish I didn't have to constantly type emotes into the chat for the main story. But whatever. You will blow through the main storyline very quickly, and you could probably knock it out in 2 or 3 days, which I'm not able to, because unfortunately, and I mean this with utmost sincerity, unfortunately, I have a life. and can't get away with doing nothing but playing video games all day. The way I approached the leveling was skipping all the dialogue, but then watching those cinematic moments because those are pretty damn good. The questing and leveling experience is great and has the best pacing I've ever seen. And by the way, you get almost no XP for killing mobs, so you have to focus on the quests. But most quests take like a minute to finish. There are some instanced or dungeon quests that take like 10 minutes or less, most likely less. When you finish the leveling process for one character, you get 2 power passes, meaning you can boost 2 characters to level 50. You can also do a knowledge transfer, so getting alts is not a problem at all. For the knowledge transfer, you actually have to play the alt for like 5 minutes and get them to the stronghold. I really like this design philosophy of making things the least amount of tedious it possibly can be for players. Leveling up alts is usually a slog in other MMOs, but here you get them pretty much handed to you, and the power pass gives you the option of going down the adventurous path, which is pretty much just the highlights of the main storyline, and you should play it because it's fun. Now let's move on to the dungeons. Throughout the leveling process in the main storyline, you will be faced with dungeons. You can do these solo or in a group, it's your choice. But I did them all solo, because I already waited in a 30-minute queue just to log on to my character. I'm not gonna wait more for a dungeon. These dungeons more often than not have good set pieces, or these interactive things that are just fun and shake things up. Like this one time in a dungeon, I got in a mech and just started killing everything. It was, as the kids say, hella. I think I also one time had a lamp that I could use to kill the undead around me. And then one where a demon was destroying the staircase I was running up. These dungeons are a lot of fun, and they are what kept me playing the game. It's also the thing most likely to give you any sort of challenge during the leveling process, since you're pretty much like a god. The bosses have these strong but telegraphed attacks, and you will be surprised at how often these things can hit you, because your dodge is on a pretty long cooldown. So, if you don't have another movement ability, it's bye-bye some health. The dungeons were my favorite part of the leveling process. Chaos dungeons. Twice a day you get good rewards from it, but after that you can still grind materials from it. Yes, this is a daily thing, but it's also really fun. This is basically a Nephilim Rift if you've played Diablo, but for those less familiar, it's random maps and random enemies, and you just spend the whole time just beating and kicking ass and just ching ching ching. The Guardian Raid. Hunt down a boss with a lot of health that you can't see. Yeah, you can't see the boss health, and that is annoying. I don't like just blindly trying to kill a boss, but whatever. You do these twice a day to get the rewards you really need, and the bosses can actually be quite challenging. But if your brain has the ability to form thought, then you probably shouldn't worry about it too much. Abyss dungeons, very mechanically challenging dungeons. This is like raiding in World of Warcraft. This is very group and teamwork oriented content. You do it in a team of 4 and it can be hard to deal with stupid people, but if you're playing with people that will at least listen, it is very fun. And sure, it can be frustrating to wipe on a boss, but man do you feel good when you kill that boss. It's awesome. The thing about challenging content is that it's much more rewarding to beat it. The larger version of this is of course the raids, but I haven't done that yet. Maybe I will do a follow-up video for that, but Abyss dungeons and raids are the height of challenge when it comes to PvE in this game. After seeing gameplay of Lost Ark, I was a little iffy on the PvP in the game. I thought it would just be like a 5-year-old smacking two toys together and making explosion sounds. But no, actually there is quite a bit to chew on here. But first we have to ask, is the PvP pay to win? No. Is the PvE pay to win? Probably, but I don't care. I care about PvP, and the PvP is balanced in complete equity. What do I mean by that? Well, everyone gets the same amount of skill points and the same item level and combat level. This of course doesn't balance like class balance, but hey, that's another animal. Now you might not know this, but I'm a big PvP guy. I like killing people. You would know this if you were subscribed. Did you know insert percentage here of my viewers aren't subscribed? So you should subscribe. That way, in a few years, you can tell your friends and family, you know, I used to be subscribed to that guy and watched his videos, and he seemed like a normal guy, and I would have never suspected he would lead the secession from the Reykjavik government for wasting another 10 million kronas on a fucking bicycle road. Anyway, I didn't expect I would need to have such a tactical approach to the PvP in this game. Dodging enemy abilities and carefully thinking about when and what ability I should use to make the enemy team my bitch. One thing I really enjoyed the idea of was playing the paladin in a PvP team deathmatch and supporting my allies and saying to the enemy team, "Hehe, you cannot kill them for I have given them a shield." Being a striker stunlock tornado was also pretty funny. You caught that I said the idea of being a paladin, right? That's where the biggest problem of the PvP comes in, the stun locking. Some classes have access to abilities that stun lock you for way too long, and once you're stun locked, it feels like you're just stuck there. There is no way to get out of it, and if there is a way to get out of it, then please let me know. And it's really annoying when you press an ability but then it gets cancelled because of the avalanche of knockups and stuns. So that's pretty much the Team Deathmatch experience. Deathmatch is a free-for-all and the person who gets the highest amount of kills wins. And you know what's really fun? Dealing most of the damage to these two guys, and then this kill-stealing bitch comes in here and kills them both, and the damage you did counts for shit. And then he kills you for good measure. This encourages people to hang around the edges and just try to snipe kills instead of actually fighting. I mean, sure, I technically win if I get second place, but that isn't first place, and that's not good enough for me. Team elimination. Now this is cool. It's essentially a series of 1v1 matches, but actually it could be one guy killing the entire enemy team if he is able to survive it. Because if a player loses, it moves on to the next player of the team. Now this sounds cool, but it does seem like some classes are way better than others in PvP. So those classes end up killing a lot or dealing a lot of damage to the enemy team, and then the rest just clean up the scraps. You select who goes first, second and last, by the way. I like the idea of PvP here, but the reality of being constantly stun locked and not being able to do anything makes it unfun. If I'm just playing the game wrong, then please let me know, because I really want to be able to enjoy the PvP here. Plus, at the moment there don't seem to be any rewards for PvP, so that sucks a bag of wieners. Strongholds. This is very much like a mobile game or Farmville or something. You have this energy bar and you can craft and make houses or something, but look, I'm not interested in this at all. And it's just extra shit to keep you busy. But there is some useful stuff here, like being able to send your crew or whatever to do a guardian raid for you, which gets you upgrade materials. There's also gathering, which ties into the strongholds, like cutting down trees and stuff like that. Not particularly exciting, but can be useful. You also have ship durability, which will limit your island exploration or whatever. But I haven't done any of that at all, because it's not a dungeon and it isn't PvP. But in the end game you will probably spend a lot of time putting the ship on autopilot and waiting for it to get where it's going. Waiting is the mobile gaming game mechanic. There is also fast-sitting gambling if you like the idea of not getting what you want because of randomness. There is also card collecting and just Jesus, look at my inventory. There is so much shit in it and I have no idea what half of it does. It's the most cluttered inventory I've ever seen. It's almost as cluttered as the recording folder for this video. The point I'm making here is there is a lot of mobile game clutter here, and some of it is probably useful, but I think the best experience will be found if you ignore it. Wow, you've reached the end game, congratulations! Now you have become a hamster on the infinite wheel of item level progression. There is a lot of stuff to do in the end game and I'm already getting a headache thinking about how much there is, so let's just cover the most important and fun stuff. I've already covered some stuff, so this is more of the miscellaneous nonsense. I'm not gonna go into detail about the rewards, but almost everything you do will give you something useful. Rapport grinding is a good way to get gold. You can use gold on the marketplace where you can buy items from other players. Or use the gold for a knowledge transfer. There are rapport quests, but you can also use gifts. Yes, this game is also a dating simulator. Here's a fun question my girlfriend asked when she saw me playing this game. Why do all the characters always have big boobs in Korean games? Because it's awesome and makes for easy marketing. Gear honing. This is important. You use some of that clutter in your inventory to upgrade your gear and raise your item level. Of course, Chaos Dungeons, Guardian Raids and Abyssal Dungeons are here, but I already covered that. Towers are a series of floors that offer you like a challenge that is basically just kill these enemies from my experience. Then there is Chaos Gates. You and a fuckload of other players go into this gate and kill bosses and then you have an auction for the item from it. And if you don't win the auction you get some gold. Cube dungeons. You need an entrance ticket and it's pretty much the same as the towers. Una's tasks is like a list of daily and weekly quests, I guess. You also have trial paths, islands, there's just a lot of shit to do. Complaints. This is the part of the video where I become a nagging ninny, bringing up new complaints or reinforcing other complaints I already made. Number 1 is clutter. Of course your inventory is cluttered, but so is the screen. In Chaos Dungeons you are constantly getting some new items and the notification for these items is right next to your character, so it blocks your view. Fuck, that's annoying. If someone knows how to move that, then please let me know. Stun locking makes the PvP unfun, there is way too much dialogue. Please don't ever turn me into a ladybug again. Come on, just one elf. Let me crush one. This is an odd complaint, but the game bombards you with extra shit to do, like engravings, cards, rapport, and just a bunch of stuff that usually clutters your inventory, and during the leveling, this shit was so overwhelming, and it was just way too much stuff to think about. This next complaint kinda ties into that. The way the game explains stuff is way too much text, and it's just the same boring dialogue. Instead of dialogue, just have a little box that says, for example, rapport grinding is a good way to get gold and you can use gifts or even do short quests. Done. You didn't need 15 sentences to explain this. The entire continent of Asia, please stop gender locking classes in MMOs. It adds nothing to the game except not letting you play what you wanna play. The game can also be pretty grindy, but that's part and parcel of being an MMO. One thing that bothered me was that I felt the game was a little too zoomed in. I got used to it, but I feel this especially when playing a ranged class. With a Deadeye rifle, sometimes I'm having to shoot at bosses or just enemies that aren't on my screen anymore, and that's annoying. I don't see why we couldn't just zoom out a little bit. I mean, the sharpshooter zooms out during some holding abilities, so you clearly have the capability. This is the biggest annoyance I have with the game and the one I feel that matters the most. Especially when people with ultra-wide monitors can actually see more in the game, which can give them an actual advantage in PvP, which to me is a little fucked. Visual clutter. So the combat abilities are flashy and explosive, so how does that feel when there are 4 or more players on a map doing abilities? Mostly fine, but there are moments where it can be a little much, but I'm surprised at how little it has bothered me. One thing that impacted me a lot, especially with bosses, was seeing a big attack coming and being like, oh fuck, it's a boss attack, I'm gonna die. But then, no, it was just a sorcerer's spell or something. And it took some time to learn the difference between an enemy attack and a player attack. Enemy attacks usually have a red telegraph. I'm pretty sure enemy players in PvP also have red telegraphs, but that might be wrong. If it is wrong, I will have a big wrong on the screen with red text and yellow borders in the Calibri font. Verdus. This boss sucks. It just does shit that fucks you up with no telegraphs and everything either stuns or one-shots you. He does this grab which is just pure cancer. It takes him like less than a second to do it and it one-shots you every time. So the only thing I can do is keep him on the edge of my screen, which is very fun by the way. Sure would be nice to zoom out and see him. Speaking of the Guardian raids, some Cro-Magnons that were beta testing the game thought the Guardian raids were too easy. So the actual monkey brains at Amazon thought, you know what, we will add an additional 50% HP to the bosses. How incompetent at your job do you have to be to think that will make a boss harder? It does not make the boss harder, it only makes the boss more time consuming and tedious. An HP buff does nothing to make the boss harder mechanically, it only takes longer to kill him, making Guardian raids fucking boring. Okay, time to balance that rant out with some praise. The leveling, it's fast, gets you used to a character, but doesn't force you to go through it again. Getting alts to max level has never been so easy, and it really feels like my time is being respected. The game's visuals are really pretty, and that makes those great set pieces like the siege work so much better. The combat is fun and those visuals make it great to look at. And the animations are so cool, like the striker has these cool, smooth, flow-like water moves that still hit incredibly hard. And you can see the weight to them, and I could look at the combat animations all day. And seeing a kick from my striker turn my enemies into pools of blood really hammers it home that I pretty much am a god. Huh, that's weird, this was also a complaint. The amount of stuff you can do in the game. While it feels overwhelming early on, later it feels kinda good that you have all this stuff to do if you get bored with something, or you run out of dailies. Plus, you can also do most of this shit on alts, which is good. I like the gear honing, it takes away some of the randomness out of the MMO experience, which is really annoying in other games. Until you are at like the 10th upgrade, then your upgrades will start failing and you will get very angry and punch a hole through the wall. The side quests being short and right next to the main quest is awesome and I love it. The chaos dungeons are really fun, even though half the time I have no idea what's going on because there is just so much happening on my screen. The Abyss dungeons are also fun and feel pretty intuitive. What I mean by that is the average human could reasonably figure out how to win the boss fight without googling. But unfortunately, a sizable part of Lost Ark's player population are actually chimpanzees and not humans, so matchmaking will be hit or miss. So the best course of action is to try to find good players and make friends with them. Failing that, I will play Abyss Dungeons with you on my Discord if I'm not too busy. If there is more praise I'm missing, the comments is a good place to let me know why I'm a stupid pee-pee poo-poo dum-dum head for missing it. I realize the complaint section is longer than the praise section, but the combat is so fun to me that I can look past the annoyances and bullshit. I also really like that you can solo almost everything, that way you don't have to rely on other people to get something done. In conclusion, Lost Ark is a very good MMO, and I'm already addicted to it. I think about Lost Ark when I'm playing Total Warhammer 3. The game has to be very good to make me ignore Total War. And sure, there is a lot of stuff I wish was changed, but the things that I like a lot. So much that I will ignore the bad. If you can skip through the dialogue and ignore all the mobile gaming bullshit, or at least just get past it, this is a very fun and addicting MMO, and I think I'm gonna be playing it for a long time. At least until Ashes of Creation or the League of Legends MMO comes out. I just hope Lost Ark listens to feedback and removes some of the annoying stuff like the clutter in Chaos Dungeons and the Guardian Raid's HP buff. But still, I just feel really good that I have this great game to play during the dry times. I will say though, with some of the stupid stuff I mentioned in the complaint section, it is really draining the fun out of the game. So I hope dearly that Smilegate or Amazon listens because I want to keep enjoying the game. Time to give this a score. I give it a... Wait a second, I can't talk right now, I gotta finish this dungeon. Out of my girlfriend suffering from severe neglect. If you'd like to play Lost Ark with me, the Discord is a good place to check out, link in description. When I'm done with this video, I'm probably working on either a Total Warhammer 3 video or an Elden Ring video, so subscribe to see which one comes out first. If you'd like this video to do better in the loathsome algorithm, then commenting and liking is good, I think. Who knows how this fucking thing works? Leave a dislike if you would like to cause me suffering. Now have an alright day. Or don't. I'm not your dad. I'm your uncle. Uncle Brian. Goodbye.